Sometimes you gotta close the door to open a window.
What does it mean to be strong? Well, if you ask Google, it'll give you the textbook definition, but if you ask Jujutsu Kaisen, for example, it'll give you a variety of answers, and somehow Yuji Itadori just seems to fit every single variety.
I was a terror since the public school era. Bathroom passes, cutting classes, squeezing asses, smoking.
You see, strength within Jujutsu Kaisen isn't really based on chaos technique or strategy or even physical strength or even your IQ. These are all things that definitely help you get there, and there can be an argument made for that. But I think the key defining trait that some of the strongest people have within this series is a mentality differential from their peers. Gojo, Sukuna, Kenjaku, Yuta, and even Todo they all have extreme mentality differences that make them stand out in some way, shape, or form. Take, for example, the differences between people like Sukuna and Nanami. I think it's widely accepted that Nanami is very, very strong, potentially even the strongest grade 1, I'm pretty sure here, within the series, even being among the rare few who have hit a Black Flash. The dude is no joke, but Nanami just simply cares too much to get stronger. He cares too much about Yuji, he cares too much about Haibara, he cares too much just about life in general, and I think that's a stark comparison to Sukuna, who told Jogo that he is also strong, but the difference between them and the likes of Gojo Satoru was that Jogo should have burned everything that he desired to a cinder, and he didn't. And Sukuna is considered the perfect marker within Jujutsu Kaisen for strength here. However, I think it's a lot more deep and a lot more complex here because people also put Gojo in that same bracket. We see Sukuna is someone whose birth and origins we don't really know anything about. Hell, we don't even know this man's real name. After all, Sukuna Ryumen is literally a title that was bestowed upon him. But based on his power shown within the story here, we all recognize him as quote-unquote the strongest. I mean, some may argue that it's Gojo Satoru, but considering this dude bested Gojo and then continue to best every single person that has come after him so far, he's definitely up there as the strongest within the series. Sukuna has shown that he can't just be beaten physically or seemingly even mentally here. There doesn't seem to be any weakness in the armor at all, except for one, which is Yuji Itadori. You see, out of all the names that I listed here before, Sukuna, Gojo, Yuta, Kenjaku, and even Todo, they are all people who have been recognized within this story in one way or another for their extreme mentalities. As I mentioned before, Gojo and Sukuna are effectively two sides to the same coin with how reckless and how little they seem to care for everything else when they're in the heat of battle. I mean, outside of battle, Gojo is obviously caring for his students, but when he's involved in a battle, he doesn't really seem to care, and we saw that most prevalently during his fight with Sukuna. And Kenjaku was willing to take anyone's body in order to accomplish his goals, and Yuta ends up following this suit. There's this weird parallel that happens within Jujutsu Kaisen of Gojo mirroring Sukuna and Yuta mirroring Kenjaku, and now Yuji mirroring Sukuna in a way that is strange also. But Yuta was also willing to take Gojo's body, someone who saved him and someone you could even argue was a father figure or perhaps an older brother figure for him. And Todo, as Sukuna states, none matches egocentricity, and quite frankly, the power of schizophrenia pretty much just buffs that dude through the roof here. But Yuji, he's kind of in a class of his own when it comes to the strength factor within Jujutsu Kaisen. You see, of all the players that I have mentioned so far, they all seem to embody sort of one element of the spectrum that is strength, or what it means to be truly strong within Jujutsu Kaisen. Gojo's recklessness, Sukuna's unbreakable spirit, Yuta's compassion for his comrades, Aku's planning and sort of battle IQ. These are all parts of what it means to be truly strong within Jujutsu Kaisen. But unfortunately for Yuji, none of these qualities have come for free. He's had to struggle and suffer to gain all of this, and he's had to fight tooth and nail throughout the entire series to gain this. And I want to preface this because I talk about multiple aspects of what it means to be strong within Jujutsu Kaisen, but Yuji's kind of all the bundle of one. When you look at like the quality of love, for example, you think almost immediately of Yuta Okkotsu and his love. His love in JJK Zero literally detained the soul of Rika Orimoto, and this allowed him to basically gain an immense amount of power. And as Kenjaku pointed out in Shibuya, Yuta Okkotsu is someone who gained his power by detaining the soul of a loved one. And ironically, Yuta ends up kind of doing that same thing a little bit later on down the line with Gojo. And as I mentioned before, this same Gojo is the same guy that basically saved him from a really horrible fate. You see, Gojo to Yuta is Gojo to Sukuna. Those two have both been saved by Gojo. And it's also interesting that Yuta ended up detaining the same soul of Gojo, someone who had saved him. And it was just a strange nuance. It was a strange thing to do on Yuta's part, but it's what allowed him to push past that realm of strength that he was already considered in. But then you have Yuji on the other hand here, and throughout the entire series, all he has been put through is just pain and suffering. Like, literally, the first chapters show him losing his grandpa, and then later on down the line, he loses Nanami, he loses Nobara, he loses Junpei. It's just suffering, and all the time that happens, he is slowly but surely growing to a point that even Sukuna questions, is this kid about to try and grow and reach the heights of me? Is he about to grow and climb to my level through the power of Black Flash? I think strength within Jujutsu Kaisen is such an interesting subject, and even Gojo throughout the series narratively was plagued by this. Are you the strongest because you're Gojo Satoru, or are you Gojo Satoru because you are the strongest? And recently we've had a somewhat answer to that with Yuta and his taking over Gojo's body, and it was a very interesting conclusion to that kind of storyline of what it really means to be strong within Jujutsu Kaisen. And as I've mentioned before, there are multiple facets to this strength aspect, but I think Yuji wholly embodies everything that all of these players throughout the story, all specialize in this one aspect of said strength that means to be a whole. I believe Yuji embodies that all as a whole in general. When I mentioned before with Gojo's recklessness, Yuji has shown complete and utter recklessness for his own body multiple times in almost every single fight. The damage that he takes due to him not having a chaos technique and having to fight at a disadvantage for the majority of the series led him to be risky and reckless with his fights, sometimes leaving all in the power of just one punch and hoping. And then there's the Sukuna unbreakable spirit. I mean, as I've talked about before within this video, Sukuna can't just be broken physically or mentally so far. He just hasn't shown any sort of breaks in the armor that is this facade that is Sukuna, and that is exactly what Yuji also embodies. And it's something that Sukuna even talks about in the most recent chapters. He talks about how this kind of indomitable spirit that Yuji has, no matter how many times Sukuna breaks him, he will always just keep getting up and keep fighting back. And then you also have Yuta's compassion for his comrades, and Yuji feels the exact same way, and in a likeness, they kind of have a parallel path, as Yuji is told by Yuta at one point, I too once bore a power that I couldn't control, and he was also saved by Gojo, and the parallels between those two are just sublime. And where Yuta chose to go in one way with his pursuit of strength in order to beat Sukuna, Yuji kind of went a different way. And then finally, that other facet of that strength that I talked about was Kenjaku's planning and battle IQ. Now, we've seen somewhat of Yuji's planning within this series, within this final battle towards Sukuna here. His plan obviously hinges in simply punching Sukuna pretty much, not probably to death, well, maybe hopefully, but his plan was obviously his soul punches. How he got these soul punches, we have no idea yet, but the fact that he came into this fight not just off a whim, he had a plan. He had something that he needed to do, and he knew how he was going to do it. Him and Yuta both had these plans in mind on how to do this, but I think throughout the entirety of this Shinjuku showdown against Sukuna, I think Yuji's true strength has truly been highlighted, and that is the fact that he just simply won't give up. And that is his mentality difference. I think that is why a lot of sorcerers would give up, and I think it's pretty evident when you look at Megami, for example. And I don't mean to dog on Megami, because obviously I recognize that this kid has been through a lot. For a teenage kid, he's been through a lot within the series. However, when it comes to Yuji has been through almost the exact same, if not the, well, yeah, pretty much the exact same. You can argue that one is worse or one is less, but those two, for the young ages that they've both been through, have been through a lot. and where Megami simply collapsed and chose to give up, Yuji has watched all of this happen and chose to soldier forward and chose to continue fighting further and further and harder and stronger, to the point now where we arrive at chapter 263, where Yuji continues to strike out against Sukuna. He continues to land blows to the point now where he's actually able to harm Sukuna's soul, essentially. Here he's almost attacking Sukuna's soul in a way. He's attacking the boundary with Dismantle between his soul and Megami's soul, and it is absolutely insane to witness. This was the same Yuji who at the beginning of the series had no Curse technique, who is now pushing Sukuna to the furthest point imaginable that we've ever seen him, causing him to throw up fingers and not be able to hold or contain his own power in his own body, which is kind of insane, and even pushing him to one point right here that says, if I continue taking these blows, I won't be able to maintain this body and I will lose. And that for me right here is all of the proof and all of the evidence that I need to see and say Yuji Itadori within this series is the strongest. I mean, when you exclude the minor exception of him not having a domain expansion, which would genuinely put him quite possibly within the top 5 of the series, I say he is the strongest overall, and it's not based on strength, it's more based on his mentality. And it is truly insane the fact that we still have yet to see the full potential from him, and I do feel it is coming. Whatever is on the horizon here, I feel like we are about to see it. Whatever this next chapter brings us, I feel like we are about to see it, because we've never seen Yuji so locked in on a fight before, and everything that is going on right now with Yuji and Sukuna and their sort of parallels, there is definitely a strong parallel between Yuji and Sukuna. I think one of the reasons Sukuna is so disgusted by Yuji is because he kind of reminds him of himself. He talks about this in one of the chapters just before he basically eats Tengen, and he's trying to figure out why he's so annoyed. Like, he just had the fight of his life, but for some reason he feels still irritated by everything that is going on, and he can't quite place his finger on it, but for some reason he arrives at the conclusion that it is Yuji, it's him, it's everything that is going on here. He says that why is it that he's disappointed? It's to the point that even Yuji's strength and Yuji's mentality to seriously continue on in this fight, in a fight that at this point seems completely unwinnable, because at the time that Sukuna was having this mental discussion with himself, a sort of questioning of his own philosophies, Sukuna is perfectly healthy. This is a 4-armed Sukuna, and he's completely healthy. He is more than able of completely and utterly destroying Yuji, but he's just toying with everyone. He's just trying to see what everyone can do and where they can go, and that's kind of why he questions if he's disappointed in Higuruma's death. He ends up arriving at the conclusion of he's never thought about desires and ideals that go beyond one's self, and it's an interesting parallel to see. But to say that Yuji isn't strong, I think, would be a gross misunderstatement of the story as a whole, and a gross misunderstatement of Yuji as a whole. Yuji is strong, and he will finish out this series by taking Sukuna's head, I have no doubt. And I imagine it would probably be in a similar fashion to how Mahito go out. Potentially, maybe not, who knows. Anyway, that is everything from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. This video was a bit different. It was a bit of a yap fest. I kind of went off the cuff with a lot of this. I'm trying something different. I wanted this to come straight from the soul, almost. I hope that kind of reflected in the video. Anyways, that's everything from me. Also, my hair's gone, by the way. That's kind of nice. Anyways, leaks videos, leaks streams and all that should be back on Thursday. If you haven't already, go like and subscribe, because they really do help me out. That's everything. Much love, big fucking kisses, and I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Peace.